Heavenly Father, we come to you in this hour, asking for your guidance and protection to our virtual gathering today. We thank you for the gift of life, the gift of family, the gift of work, and the gift of friendship. We thank you for this great opportunity to bring us together in this session as brothers and sisters. Bless the committee, the facilitator, and the attendees of this gathering. May we continue to value and appreciate the true essence and meaning of life with the help of your grace. And as we go along to our discussion today, we humbly pray that you would deepen our understanding. Lord, enlighten us and give us wisdom every day. Forgive us for our shortcomings and remind us to always be mindful of the things we do in life. We offer our life and our decisions to you, O Lord. May this gathering today create a memorable experience and a fruitful outcome. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, our Redeemer and our Savior. Amen.
Good morning everyone. Maayong buntag sa tanan. Hi to all our friends and our colleagues all over the Philippines perhaps. But for now, I am saying some familiar names at the participant room. Hi to Dr. Jean Puerto. I think we met sometime in 2013. Hi to Ma'am Evelyn from the division of Zamboanga City. Wow, layo. Hi, Ma'am. Good morning. And to Riza, Danica, Jacqueline, maybe some are still catching up to log in. When I checked the registration, there are about 90 who registered, but unfortunately, not all are coming in. Maybe because they are still uh it's it's nice to be on bed, especially this kind of weather. So good morning everyone, and mabuhay tayong lahat. From Dumaguete, I am Dave Marshall, and our topic for this morning is strategies for limited face-to-face instruction. So I am currently the director for the Silliman Online University Learning. Um, Before I will start, give me a thumbs up for those who attended the introduction to blended learning or the blended learning 101 that I delivered last July 1, 2021. Give me a thumbs up for those who attended the 101 webinar. I think only one. Okay, only one who attended, because basically my discussion this morning is a continuation of what we had started last July 1. Okay? But I guess for those who were not able to attend the July 1 Blended Learning 101, you can actually go to our YouTube channel, and then you can watch the instruction or you can watch the recordings that we had. Maybe our colleague from the office, Sir Fredley Bukug, can specifically post the link of the webinar last July 1 on Blended Learning 101. Okay, so before I will start, considering that not many of us were able to attend last July 1. I would like to know, what do you know? What do you know about blended learning 101? And that is, kindly go to paulev.com. Never mind the text. Open a browser and go to paulev.com/Dave Marshall 107 and let me know. I would want to know, what do you know about limited face to face? What do you know about limited face to face? So what you are going to do for you to be able to respond the question, open another browser like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and type paulev.com/Dave Marshall 107 and start answering the question, what do you know about limited face to face? Let's try to check it out if many are, if you were able to get in. Let me know if you cannot answer the question. So again, open a browser, respond at paulev.com/Dave Marshall 107 and answer the question, what do you know about limited face to face? Not yet of the poll. What do you know about limited face to face? Let me know if you cannot answer that or still others are still catching up. Open a browser and then respond at paulev.com/Dave Marshall 107 and type your answer. What do you know about limited face to face? Cannot be reached. Let me check paulev.com. What about the others? Were you able to check it out? And let me know. Were you able to answer? No, what happened? Let me know. Cannot be opened? Okay, so if that's not working, if it's not working, oh, there, someone responded already. Students, controlled number. Okay, okay, good, here. Okay, so let me check again and let me share because there are answers already. instructional, controlled, learning, group, student, taught live, learner, instructor, person, material, limited, content are also limited. Limited face-to-face, there is a live instruction also. Yes, that's what you know. Anyone knows about the memorandum order, the joint memorandum order between the DOH, the IATF, and the Commission on Higher Education. Okay, so from there, I will stop my sharing and I want you to answer this poll. Are you excited by the implementation of the limited face-to-face? Yes. Well, yes. That should be the second actually is not really, not really. No, it should not be no. But yes, it should be yes, not really, and then absolutely no. The second no there should be not really. And then the last one is absolutely no, typographical error. Okay, 10, 13 responded. What about the others? Are we all excited for the implementation of the limited face-to-face? Yes. The first choice is yes. The second choice should be not really, no, instead of no. And then absolutely no. Okay. Sige, all responded. And just to share with you the score, many in the room answered yes, they are excited. And then no, not really, and then absolutely no. Maybe there are some similar to those who said no or not really or absolutely no. This implies that we have reservation, we have apprehensions, and if we totally understand or at least a deeper understanding about blended learning, limited face to face, I think we will be we will be excited, but at the same time, at the back of our mind, we might feel um, we might be afraid of the possible outcomes, and the readiness might be of the challenge when we say limited instruction or limited face-to-face instruction. So thank you for that. That is just to give us a start, and let's try to make this webinar a discussion, more of an interactive one, because my discussion this morning is basically a product of our review of literature and a product of the nature and the kind of my research endeavor, particularly on technology-oriented flexible learning, teaching and learning. Yeah, if you have something to add, feel free to share. If you have something to rebut perhaps, or if you have something to argue, or if you have something to share, in other words, please do so. You can raise your hand and let's make this discussion more interactive and be participative. No? Okay, So let me share my screen and I will start my sharing on the strategies. Okay. So strategies for limited face-to-face instruction. When I was preparing my material, I thought of not giving you so much because I know it's difficult. It might be turn out to useless if we will give you everything that we know. As I've mentioned, this is actually a sequel, or it's a series of knowledge sharing. The first one was I delivered last July 1, 2021, and then my colleague also at the office, Alfie Arcelo, shared also about tips on how to move or how to transition from full online to a limited face-to-face. My material, my discussion for this morning is in the context of from full online distance learning to a limited face-to-face. As we all know, Silliman University ventured into a full online distance learning started last year, summer of last year. And now we are preparing ourselves for the possible university-wide implementation of the limited face-to-face. Possible because we do not know yet as far as the mandate by the government is concerned, that is only limited face-to-face instruction for allied health sciences. My topic for this morning, just give you my lucky 7 tips and initial strategies on how we can transition. Last time I reviewed, or during the July 1, I reviewed the different models in thorough, but this time I would want to pick only some of those many models, strategies in the blended learning. I asked you about what you know about the limited face-to-face because after all, the only available guidelines that we have is the Joint Memorandum Circular number 2021-001 from the Commission on Higher Education and the Department of Health. And these guidelines specifically focus on the gradual reopening of campuses of higher education institutions for limited face-to-face classes during the COVID-19 pandemic. I understand that we have colleagues from the Department of Education here, but pardon me because my material is highlighting the implementation in the tertiary level. But I am sure that you can get some tips also that may be applicable in your department or at the Department of Education level. So according to these guidelines, limited face-to-face classes refers to the restriction in terms of the number of students to attend face-to-face classes in campus, on campus, in any given day, based on the degree programs or courses they are currently enrolling, the shifting or rotational schedule. This is in cases for duties, internship, and physical distancing and other health and safety protocol. Limited face-to-face in this circular is very operational in nature, administrative in nature, on how we can administer a limited face-to-face classes. The guideline does not specifically mention on a specific pedagogy, on a specific strategy, on what we are going to implement in the face-to-face or limited face-to-face classes. It's up to us, we teachers, it's up to us to go to the basics and incorporate the different learning theories, the learning principles, and learning design. Last July 1, I presented also some challenges and opportunities that we have to start talking about in terms of class size, in terms of instructional designing challenges, and what are the opportunities it could offer. I also talked about to consider what type of delivery method, assessment, and at the same time, the class-based continuity plan. All these challenges are also opportunities that will be open for both major players or stakeholders in the academic arena or in our setup. This is on the micro level, on the level of the teachers, the level of the faculty, the level of the staff, the level of the teacher in the classroom. And at the same time, and the opposite to that is on the macro level, which looking at the holistic and the general and campus-wide, college-wide, university-wide guidelines in relation to your classroom, in relation to your instructional designing, delivery, assessment, class-based continuity plan. To be more specific, I post some questions on how big is the class size considering of the number of students specified in the guideline. On instructional designing, how can we design our syllabus in such a way that it could offer and it can cater to both students who will go to face to face and who will not go to face to face. We have to consider also our assessment, in particular rubrics, our quizzes, our exams, oral recitations, and so on, that somehow project justice and fairness to both sector of learners, cohort of learners. And of course, I was mentioning also, do we have template? Do we have plans on how we can go on with our teaching activities when there are situations that will arise, especially for to continue our classes? Now, some initial strategies, as I've mentioned, I only presented here 7, and it's actually a work in progress. And hopefully, we can set another schedule to continue some of the strategies. And again, we can work this together, discuss this together on what would be the most appropriate and applicable strategies in our own institution. The first thing that we should do is we have to finalize our policy and implementing guidelines. I am looking at 3 major policies and implementing guidelines that should be crafted from the administrators level. And again, as I'd mentioned, 2 key players in this, the administrators, at the same time the teachers, being the manager in our own classroom. I am looking actually at 3. One is look at the retrofitting guidelines of the circular, of the memorandum. Retrofitting guidelines, in particular, we have to look at our classroom. Now, the the guidelines mention about very infrastructural related considerations. When we say retrofitting, you have to consider redesigning your computer laboratory if there is, even the placement of our tables and chairs, no? um the number of apparatus, the number of laboratory equipment are can these laboratory materials can cater the limited face to face. That's on the classroom point of view. In the campus wide point of view, review the learning common spaces, review the operation of our library. We have to consider also retrofitting our hallways, retrofitting our cafeteria, retrofitting all physical learning spaces of our students, and not just our students, but for our teachers and our staff, our support unit that may congregate in terms of schedules, vacancy, and break time. Look at your scheduling. What is this? If in the full ODL, if the teaching time is 8 to 12, what will happen after 12? For sure, all of them will go out, and they may um uh what's this? They may congregate in one place. They may stay in one place that may affect or violate the protocol or the guidelines by IATF or by our local health and safety protocol. What about the teaching time of our teachers? Um, if in the ODL or during the face-to-face, there are 13 faculty and all of them will have break time at one time, at the same time, then are the 15 teachers be allowed to stay in the office? Technically, no, because we are not allowed to congregate 10 persons at one time because of the pandemic. So we have to change that, the scheduling technique. If you are going to implement face to face, no, the vacant hours, why I highlighted break time and vacant hours, just to give you an overview. Or you have what if our university used to have a common time for meetings like 10 to 12 Wednesday? What if those students have nothing to do and they are not situated in their own classroom? So they are outside. If they are outside the campus, maybe they are staying in the library. And there is also policy on the number of students who will stay in one place. Okay? It's not retrofitting really is not a joke. No, it's not a joke. You have to think everything. You have to redesign the infrastructure and you have to redesign the mindset of both teachers and students. That's retrofitting. Another important policy that I'd look at also is on the class sectioning. Class sectioning, especially for two or more sections. So say for example, you have to remember that per guidelines, this is not compulsory. Students can still, or students should be accepted whether uh, he or she will still go on with the full online distance learning or the flexible learning and the LF2F or the limited face-to-face. Now, um, let's start discussing first two or more sections. So say for example, you are handling Filipino 1 and there are 5 sections into it. For sure, our maximum number class size is 40 students per guideline in the Commission on Higher Education, maximum 40 students in a lecture class. Okay. So say for example, if you offer 5 sections, my suggestion to that is you should identify a section for full ODL. Students who will not enroll in the face-to-face should enroll that section. And students who will enroll for a limited face-to-face instruction should be on that section. Why? So that teachers or in your delivery and at the same time in the preparation of your content and in preparation of your assessment, they are grouped together. They are grouped together. But the issue is, what about those classes? What about those classes having only one section? Okay, having only one section. Again, my premise here is this is not compulsory. Students can still select whether to attend face-to-face or to enroll face-to-face, the limited face-to-face, or to enroll, still go on the existing flexible type of learning? Or what if I have a class, a major class, and we offer only one section, and only one will say, yes, sir, I will go for a limited face-to-face. Are you going to are you going to pursue with that one question? Okay. Later on, I have a solution to that. Or what if there are less number of students who will go for ODL? Or the other way around, what if there are only two students who will go for a limited face-to-face versus the 38 students only for the ODL? Are you going to pursue that? No? So class sectioning is a big deal. It's a big deal issue. It has implication to financial resources of the university, of the school. It has implication to teachers load. It has implication to students load. It has implication to the retrofitting guidelines. After all, you have no choice. You have no choice because in the retrofitting guideline, the policy states that a maximum of 10 students should be are allowed, and even the distance, which is the 1.5 meters in distance. We have a regular classroom dimension as stipulated in the building code in the Philippines, and that will only accommodate a few students. 10 students will can accommodate with that kind of measurement. And you cannot just simply say we will still go on and follow the same traditional way of our class sectioning and meeting them, because in the limited face-to-face, there are very specific limitations as to when and what are considered limited. That's one. The other one that I find very interesting and very important consideration is the class-based learning continuity plan. What will happen if, or we should be ready. We should be ready when one of our students is suspected for the virus. What if one of our students are or is a first gen, a second gen, and match it to the existing protocol in our university? Like in our university, at Silliman University, once you are a second generation contact, you are not allowed to go on campus. Okay, even if that is second generation, and then third generation, and fourth, and so on. Or what if in the quarantine? And what if there are changes in the local and the national mandate? Like for Dumaguete, we are in automatic MEGCQ. Be familiar with those guidelines. So everything should be incorporated there. I feel that these three major policies should be set up before deciding whether to achieve or to implement a limited face-to-face. After all, it is not also compulsory for the institutions to subscribe into the limited face-to-face, because after all, the institution should apply to the Commission Higher Education before any instruction takes place. So we should let's should work together and identify what are those retrofitting guidelines. Again, look at the financial resources, the different implications, because if we are a teacher, it's easy for us to say, oh, change my room, change that 40 computer classes, computer units, and just change it to 10. And it's not that easy, because you have to consider the expenses, you have to consider the class hours, you have to consider sectioning, and you have to consider the learning continuity plan. What do you think? Do you have something to add in this particular initial strategy so that we can move on to our preparation? Hi, Ma'am Juliet, Esmeralda. It's nice to see you from Zamboanga City. Okay, so that's the first. The second, I posted here the minimum physical distance that may affect our policy and implementing guidelines, in particular on strictly implementing physical distancing. And the definition for physical distancing is at least in all our classroom, even in our hallway, even at different sulok and different corner in our university, there should be an implementation, a measure, or a way that students, faculty, staff, from janitorial down to the leadership team, should implement and follow 1.5 meters physical distancing. And again, it has implication to strategy. It has implication to pedagogical implementation. Second, identify courses or subjects to be offered with limited face-to-face modality. Although in the joint circular memorandum, it only stated that for skill-based, no, skill-based acquisition type of courses, but there is no one, or we are given actually the liberty to interpret, because as I mentioned, the guideline is very silent in terms of pedagogical, and in terms of learning styles, in terms of learning strategy, teaching strategy in the delivery of our limited face-to-face. No one can stop us in exploring other modalities and other strategies in our own interpretation for limited face-to-face modality. So we can consider this. Maybe you can consider, when you choose which subject or courses to be offered, you can look at it by per program. So say for example, do you want all major courses to be in limited face to face, or do you want that all GE should not be, or should be delivered in a flexible mode, or all GE should be delivered online, no? Or you may pick or choose only thesis and capstone or internship can be offered as a limited face-to-face. We can also look at per year level. Say for example, maybe you will say only third year and fourth year, all courses of fourth year, all courses of the fifth year will be offered with limited face-to-face. Or you can also look at by tracks and specialization. Or only the carpentry major will go for the limited face-to-face because that is necessary for them. Or you can look at only the major in can go into a limited face-to-face. We can also look at per program graduate outcome. Remember the mapping of our subjects, the mapping of our curriculum. You can look at there if the graduate outcomes need to be demonstrated, or it is necessary to say for example a skills demonstration, then you can look into that, like outcomes that are best achieved when performed in face to face. You look at that. And the other thing that I can think also is you look at a per learning outcome of the course, no? Per learning outcomes of the course. I was mentioning about mapping. Remember when we map our subject, there is their demonstrated discussion, So you can look at which among those subjects or which among those courses or learning outcome in a particular subject that needs to be demonstrated. And when we say demonstrated, there is an action into it. There is a demonstration, a skill performance, or a performance based type of activity. So you can look at that into four different ways, but you can also look at a combination of these four when you identify what subject, or if you want to identify what courses. This will really help us decide, because remember, in the retrofitting, hindi naman siguro pwede na lahat ng computer lab mo, you will retrofit it for the COVID-19 pandemic time. Hindi naman siguro pwede na all your computer lab for 40 that can accommodate 40 students, you will retrofit it into 10. So it's very expensive. No, it's very expensive. I know many administrators. I've been talking to many administrators, and they said it's expensive. Okay, and again, as I mentioned, you can actually group them. I mean, you can look at per program. If the major course, you can look at the first year to fourth year or per year level. But you have to remember, in the per year level, the guideline stated that it is it is within the discretion of the HEIs to decide when they intend to conduct limited face-to-face, and HEIs may opt not to conduct limited face-to-face. If the student prefers to the flexible learning during the pandemic, the HEI shall permit the student take the face-to-face class and so on and so forth. But I just want to give emphasis that for any courses or subject that we assume to be offered at the age, because freshmen in the new, what is this, in the new educational system for us, we start in 18 or 19 years old. So most likely the 20, most likely in general, courses or subjects in the first year and the second year level in the curriculum totally cannot be part of the limited face-to-face, even if that is a major, even if one of the outcome there is a demonstrated, because again, per CHED IATF, 20 years old and above. Although there is a caveat here, there is a phrase here as determined by CHED. So it's not that that because you still have to apply, you have to get permission, you have to seek clearance from the authorities before you could offer. But in general, courses allowed for unlimited face-to-face are only for junior and sophomore level courses and subjects. Okay, if you have questions, feel free. What do you think of this? Can you think of other ways on how we can identify courses or subjects to be offered with the limited face-to-face modality? Okay, third, I'm halfway. Third is F2F for HOTS, or face-to-face should be for higher order thinking skills. Remember, in the Bloom's taxonomy, it should be at the higher level of thinking skills, and use the face-to-face time for knowledge deepening and knowledge creation. So what is this? During face-to-face, no lecture should be allowed. No, let's maximize the time for critical thinking. Let's maximize the time for skill performance validation. Let's maximize the time where or to perform an activity that cannot be done, or that can be enhanced by face to face instead of an online. Kasi if you will just go a lecture, sayang yung time, sayang yung risk, no? We know that every day is a risk in this pandemic time. It's not worth to take the risk na yung estudyante pupunta lang, mag-attend lang because of a lecture, one way, teacher just talking, talking, and talking, which that can be done via online. That can be done a pre-recorded lecture. No assessment, no written assessment. Sayang yung time, yung written assessment. Although I totally understand for some courses, especially you have your rotation type of assessment where there is a need of a laboratory, apparatuses perhaps, or let's say for example a part of the muscles, and then students should be in rotation. It that can be done, but what I am referring to no written assessment, these are the lower level of thinking skill, like your recall, like your enumerate, no, where students can just simply recall it without any support material to understand the assessment or to process your assessment. Use the face-to-face for validation of the skill. I myself, I even said, I read literature that if you are going to have the limited face-to-face and you will just ask them to perform, why not let them perform via online, pre-recorded, and just do the validation? That is to maximize your time. What does it mean? So by the time they will come in, you will just have to validate what they perform online rather than letting them perform from scratch, and it will just take your time. Sayang yung time that you can only focus to one person or a few, and you are asking so much time that can be done online, or that can be done asynchronously or synchronously online, or the other flexible learning. So maximize the time, knowledge creation, knowledge deepening, no literacy level, no discussion, no one-way discussion of me as a teacher talking to students. Student will just simply listen to you. Sayang yung time. It's not worth yung risk if the students will just go there and listen to you. Okay? So during face-to-face, be creative. There are many activities that can be done here, like of course the experimentation, even demonstrated skills, skill validation, and so on and so forth. There are many strategies. We can talk that in the future webinar or future online training or seminars we have. Next, oh, by the way, you have to consider that during face-to-face, by operations, the guidelines also mention about this. Students doing flexible learning and have approved appointment from their HEIs, and these are activities that can be done. Pick up learning materials. They can pick up the materials. They can submit the requirements. They can do consultation, which that cannot be done or that is best achieved via face-to-face, because online consultation naman can be done online. But there are there are instances that consultations are best articulated, especially when done face-to-face. Access to learning materials for a limited time. This is what I meant for our learning commons, our library. Defend their thesis, dissertations, or even take final examination, especially comprehensive type of exam. And the HEI shall ensure that health and safety protocol. This is the one I mentioned to you on the retrofitting, just to make sure that when they arrive, uh, the scheduling should be synchronized. Like if you allow students to pick up what time, how many are allowed to come on time, o baka naman kasi limited face to face, they can just come anytime, so all 10,000 students will go to your campus at one time. So while the instruction base is limited, but the outside is not anymore limited. That's the one I mentioned. It has to be synchronized, both classroom-based and campus-based or university-wide policies and guidelines. Otherwise, it will defeat the purpose. Yes, limited nga. Meron kang 10 students inside the classroom. But when they go out, oh my God, they congregate and the hallways are congested, the library are full, or the cafeteria are full, and so on and so forth, which are very risky and prone to acquisition of the virus. Take note that walk-in students shall not be allowed. Why is it it is highly specified? It is highly specified walk-in students shall not be allowed so that administrators and all of the teachers and all stakeholders can plan out. So you just imagine if you have 40 students in a class and then all of them will say, okay, ma'am, I will submit, we will submit, and all the 40 will come in to you in just one day. So all you have to do is to really schedule it based on the retrofitting of your sectioning, retrofitting of your classroom delivery, and retrofitting of your class schedule. Okay? Because again, this is a special case for a limited face-to-face. Special case because there is this uncertain enemy that we do not know where to when will strike, and we do not know also where they are right now, no. So you have to look at everything should be planned. Hindi siya yung uh automatic, we can change our schedule and then okay, let's meet tomorrow, and then the other half is not. It should be planned in consonance to the preparatory rules implementing guidelines of the institutions or of the subject. Okay. Fourth, okay. Fourth is utilize applicable blended delivery. Last June 1, I shared the different blended learning modalities, and among the common one is this is blended learning. If you will see this, the brick and mortar, this is traditional instruction and then technology rich instruction, meaning you are meeting the brick and mortar, you are meeting it online in the class. So you are using perhaps the internet, you are using your projector. That is what you meant by technology enhanced or rich instruction. While for the online learning, well, we know full time, like for Siliman, the online distance learning. In the blended learning is a combination of both, combination of the face to face and the online learning. Later on, I have my own arguments about blended learning and face to face or limited face to face. Now, in the blended learning, the most common delivery models is the rotational model. Station rotation model. This is where students within a single class rotate between a number of learning activities. So student in a class, I think many of you, especially in the allied health sciences, are doing this. In a blended learning rotational model, though at least one of these modalities is the online learning. So say for example, the first activity is grouping, no? And then the second active inside the class, the second activity is outside the campus. And then one of the activity there is the online component. That is why it's called rotational model. The lab rotation is, however, students rotate to a computer lab for online learning activities instead of staying within the same classroom. So it's lab rotation. You just rotate students. Let's say, for example, Monday, group one will do that, group two, and so on and so forth. The flipped classroom is very common, not only applicable for blended learning, but even for the full online distance learning, where when the students are meet online, no more lecture, no more reading, but purely activity based or performance based. That is why it's called flip, because instruction, reading are done outside the classroom online, and then when you meet for the limited time, that is the time that you can demonstrate your skill. And then the individual rotation, or sometimes called as sorry, for the individual rotation, this is set for students daily schedule, which allows students to rotate to some, not all, of the rotation activities based on their unique needs. I can see that what is most applicable based on IATF, the Joint Circular Memorandum Guidelines, is the individual and the flipped classroom model, because station and lab rotation model is so exhausting for the teachers, especially for big class sizes, and especially if we cannot determine on the combination of those who will go for face to face and those who will not go for face to face. So what is individual rotation? This is still exhausting, but at least you can identify, or say for example, a teacher will prepare three different set of rotation. Okay, just choose which one of you. MWF, we will meet the W, and then online F. The other way around, or the other preparation, is M is the limited face-to-face. The individual rotation model can be articulated also in such a way that it's not really by per student. No, baka mahihilo na tayo dyan, that all year 40 students will have their unique and own rotational model. It's not like that. You just prepare, it's just like a menu, and then students will just prepare, that one is applicable to me. Every Monday I will report, and then every Wednesday I will go online, and every Friday we will have a assessment. So that's individual rotation. The second is the flex model. Flex model is students still learn primarily at their school campus, and then student flex model benefit from both learning at their own pace online as well as from the direct teacher guidance in their classroom. In other words, the face-to-face component plays a major role. In other words, the syllabus are prepared primarily for a face-to-face instruction. That is why I always tell, or that is why I am challenging you that make our own interpretation of flex model, because based on literature, it might not be applicable 100% for a limited face-to-face during this pandemic. Because again, limited limited, it's up to us how we define limited. It's up to us how we define the number of hours, the number of contact hours to our students, to the teachers, and others. The self-blended learning, or sometimes called as a la carte, which is another type of blended learning, students have the option to pick and choose courses to take online as a way to supplement. So self-blended. It is tasky, and it is expensive also. It has financial implications, because you just imagine students can just choose which among he or she wanted to enroll, or to have the limited face-to-face. But as I'd mentioned, the university, the school should identify before any enrollment will do that this particular subject is face-to-face, this particular subject will cater limited face-to-face, this particular course or subject will only be delivered online. Okay, so the students, so that expectations from the students' point of view will be catered, and it is very clear to them what are expected as you go along into the limited face-to-face. The fourth one is the so-called enriched virtual model. This is more into the flex model. The enriched virtual is primarily on in-person, face-to-face, and there are gadgets, or there are technologies that enhance or enrich your face-to-face. And this, again, we can have our own interpretation into this, but this may not be necessarily applicable in the limited face-to-face as prescribed in our guideline. Because you just imagine you teaching in the class in the face-to-face, and then what will happen to the other students online? You have to set up all the cameras there. so that when you teach face to face, your other online students can also learn from you. And you have to imagine that the material that you are preparing are for face to face, and those who cannot come for face to face will just look at the video session which is done on campus or in campus. No, so there are many. This is actually a very complicated one, but my my challenge to all of us is you don't need to be very exact as to type of the definition or the modality of the blended learning, but you can have our own, we can mix and match our own model based on the available resources and the type of students that we have in our university. Okay, now um, they said that during this pandemic, Hyflex is the most appropriate and applicable one. Hyflex because there is synchronous and there is also a synchronous group. You have to take note that there could be in-person group, and there is also a so-called the online group of students, and students have a choice into that. Remember, it's not compulsory. Or what if a parent will not allow the students to attend face to face? So again, we are obliged to accept all this kind of students. So Hyflex because when we prepare our material here, when we prepare our assessment, all the exams, it should cater to two forms of learners, the in-person and the online student. Because after or later, I will try to give you a clearer view of this kind of learners in a limited face-to-face. That is also challenging when we do assessment and others. Okay, so this is the one I'd mentioned to you that in full person, we have the blended learning, the hybrid, the flex, and the full online. You have to take note that you might, in a class, you might have students who will only join you for the full online. You might have students that can do hybrid and can do high flex. So hybrid, that is why for you to be able to cater the two, do high flex or hybrid flexible type of learning, meaning students can learn in campus or in person, and students also can learn on campus. Okay, um, but in this type of high flex model, we have to consider, as I mentioned, the two groups of learners in our class, the students who can do high flex and the students who cannot do high flex but can do fully online. How are you going to to mix them in one preparation? How the online group and the face-to-face group can learn at the same level at and can acquire the intended learning outcomes at the same level according to the learning and according to the pacing you set in the classroom. I know naman na majority of us will go to instruction-led type of pacing. It's not really self-paced because we say, okay, on this week we will talk about this topic. That's instruction-led or schedule-oriented, time frame. Unlike with MOOCs or unlike with other online activities, they do self-paced and personalized type of learning. And again, it is a challenging issue on how we can do all these things. So the next is, which is related to implementing what is applicable blended delivery, is we have to recalibrate our syllabus. We know this. We did this when we shifted from face-to-face to online. But this time, I wanted you to highlight on the learning activities. Highlight, give emphasis on the learning activities. Remember, in our syllabus, we have learning outcomes, we have topic, and then we have activities, and then we have a column for assessment. Pay particular attention for the learning activity. You have to stipulate what are the asynchronous activities that can be done online. Asynchronous, when we say asynchronous, this could be assessment in nature, it could be reading resources, it could be in discussion type. It depends, because there are varied activities that we can categorize as asynchronous activity. Pay attention on the synchronous activities. What day, what time, what platform, what particular topic should be done for synchronous activities. You have to incorporate the face-to-face activity, which among those topic and which among those learning outcomes that will be done in face-to-face. Pwede naman kasing we can say, okay, in my syllabus, my limited face-to-face is only 18 hours out of 48 hours, only one periodic term we will be meeting, and then after that we will not meet anymore. Or pwede din naman kasing prelim and midterm we will not meet, but we will meet on the final period, because that is the time that the higher thinking order skills are elaborated. So we can do that. So it's really, we have to specify which among those activities are asynchronous, synchronous, and face-to-face activities. Aside from that, you have to quantify the contact hours. Baka kasi at the end of the day, teachers are like zombie-like na dahil sa daming activity na ginagawa. Just like what we did from face-to-face to online, we are overwhelmed on how to prepare our activities, and we did not know that we are on screen almost 24/7. And we feel that kasi yung mindset naka face-to-face. But summary in total, it's more than the usual 3 hours per week that you are contacting with the class. No? So that is why I always tell, when we put, remember in our syllabus, we have teaching, we even have time frame there. For some, there is a time frame. We have to incorporate, we have to quantify how much screen time during the synchronous. And for the ODL student that who cannot attend for the face-to-face, you measure how much time they needed for asynchronous and how much time they needed for synchronous. For the face to for students who can come on campus in person, always count, also measure also the screen time during the asynchronous and the screen time of the face to face. Baka kasi you will forget na yung mini-measure mo lang is only the face-to-face. And then students will be bombarded with so many activities with the other subjects also, especially in the online activities. So there are two major things that I would want you to highlight when you recalibrate your syllabus. Pay attention to the learning activities, then quantify the contact hours. It has to be stipulated in the syllabus. How many hours for synchronous? How many hours for asynchronous? What are the topic to be synchronous and asynchronous? I hope at this level, at this time, it is clear already in our mind how we can partition our activities and divide them according to synchronicity of the delivery, whether synchronous and asynchronous. Oh, by the way, you can also incorporate bichronous. What is that? It is asynchronous within asynchronous, or the other way around. Asynchronous activities, but there are real-time activities into it. There are synchronous activities inside asynchronous activities. That is just to make sure that engagement is high. Okay, that's number 5. Anyone who would like to add from my sharing? Baka may gustong mag-add. Okay, next is my, oh, this is the one I'd mentioned to you that you have to quantify. You have to quantify and qualify also the different activities. So you have two groups of students here, the online and the students who can do face-to-face. By the way, these students who can do face-to-face not necessarily mean that they will only meet you in face-to-face. That is why in my here, I am referring to face-to-face group of students who can do in person and at the same time should do the online thing. Remember, not all activities in the limited should be done in person. Only few and allowable activities can be done in person. So you have to consider how much is online. Is it 99%? Is it lower than 100%? So you have to consider that. Like if you have a lecture, if your subject is a lecture type of a 52 hours or a 54 hours, identify how many percentage are to be done in face to face for those students who will do face to face. Okay, or your subject or your course can be done 50-50, meaning 50% face to face, 50% online, or it depends, again it depends to your policy because the guideline is very open to interpretation and we can have our own way of our own way of interpreting the guidelines into a very specific policy in the classroom. I'll go to the sixth. Sixth strategy is select appropriate and scalable hardware and software resources. So because this is limited face-to-face, and again, I am biased into the technology-based flexible learning. As I mentioned a while ago, we have colleagues from the elementary level here. Um, you might you might go into the printed or the so-called modular thing, but the printed one, it's a distance learning through a printed module. That should be the right way to call it. We have to consider we should have a learning management system to do our asynchronous learning, where to cater also our students who cannot come on campus, who cannot come in person in campus. No, a learning management system like for Seliman, we have MySoul, which can cater still go on with the full online distance learning that we do. In the asynchronous learning, put there your pre-recorded lecture. In other words, the face-to-face still will go to the asynchronous learning. Your pre-recorded lecture, post it there, your reading materials, and some of the downloadable references. Aside from the asynchronous, you have to have your video conference tools for synchronous. Google Meet, Zoom, BBB, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, and all other video conference tools. Especially, this is to cater for students who cannot come on campus. Students who opt to still go on with the online distance learning. And in the HyFlex, we have to consider that there should be internet. In a limited face-to-face, there should, in a technology-based or enhanced flexible learning, limited face-to-face, there should be a technology, a combination of both online and a retrofitted brick and mortar classroom. Retrofitted because you have to change the design, interior, and others. And my last is use varied assessment tools, which and should be fair to both. You just imagine, remember, you will have two groups of students, especially if you're handling only one class. Assuming you will have 50% of your class, 20 students are or can come in person, and 20 students cannot come in person. What are you going to do? No? So some of my suggestions here is administer online your assessment. administer online your assessment. Um, for especially for those who cannot come face to face, you still go on. But when we say assessment, it's not necessarily mean real time. When I say synchronous, you have to make sure that those activities done online, I mean in person or in face to face, are also well articulated and demonstrated via online. That is why you need to prepare your classroom activity and classroom requirements that are achievable for both ODL and face-to-face students. Meaning instruction on how to achieve the performance, these activities in achieving the output should be done in varied ways, particularly can be done via online and can be done in face-to-face. Parang ang daling sabihin, but yes, it's that this is the ideal and there are many ways to do it. In other words, we have to go back again to recalibration. We have to go back again reviewing our activities. Hindi pwede yung activity natin from face to face that we recalibrated to full online, the same activity you will use that to face to face. Again, we'll go to the process of recalibration just like what we did from face to face to the online delivery. And we have to incorporate rubrics, no, assessment category, performance category that are fair to both ODL and face-to-face students. I mentioned this last time. They said students daw there might be differences in terms of the quality of learning because students who are into in-person can learn more and students uh, cannot learn in good when they are in ODL. For me, it doesn't matter because it what really matters is on the preparation of our content and delivery or on how we recalibrated our syllabus. And after all, students will also opt according to the way or the students there is perhaps a contribution when they decide to do ODL or face to face by way of reflecting their kind of learning preference. Maybe some students are into ODL and students are hiyang na hiyang into the full online distance learning and maybe some are not. So again, the common denominator here is we have to administer our assessment in such a way that it can be it is fair to both group of learners, the online and those who can come in campus. Remember that one of my suggestion also is administer online all your assessment. I'm referring to the written assessment. Put that into the online because that can be done by both. And when it comes to performance, make sure that there is alternative way for the ODL group of students in still that they can still achieve the expected outcomes of the class even if they are performing it online. Again, there are many ways to do it. There could be a separate training topic for that. So those are my lucky seven tips and strategies for the limited face-to-face instruction. This is more actually of the preparation phase. In the future, we are developing our seminar material, seminar outline on how we can move on after the preparation. Again, as I'd mentioned, it's a sequel. It is a micro learning type. We learn from the June 1, we learn the basic blended learning theories. This time on the preparation, perhaps in the next is on the actual in the classroom based type of delivery. Before I will end, this is a sort of reflection to all of us. This is basically the limited face to face. You have a group of students who can come in the class, and you will have also a group of students who cannot come in the class but can do online. And the blend and the students, unfortunately, for students who cannot come in face to face, will have a different meaning and a different way of the blended learning they have, because the blended learning they have is self-paced, meaning I still can do technology but at the same time manual, because but I will do it on my own because I am doing that at home. While for those students who can come in campus is the ideal blended learning. There is a face-to-face teacher guidance and at the same time the online component. So limited face-to-face is a special kind of blended learning. It is a special kind of blended learning, and it is a type of a flexible learning for only a group of learners. And it's not actually for all, because after all, students can choose it. It depends on our available our when I say our the school resources in terms of the retrofitting and all those guidelines that are stipulated in the guidelines of CHED and the Department of Health. So my last word into this is, let us choose a strategy that is holistic. When I say holistic, not only in the classroom, but according to the available resources, kung anong kaya ng university, anong kaya ni teacher, anong kaya ng klase ng estudyante. And equally, choose a strategy that can respond to these uncertain times. Every day is a new day to all of us. We do not know what happens in the next time, in the next morning, because of this pandemic. Responsive in a way that we are at our 100% flexibility, that we can respond to the uncertain times of this kind of teaching and learning. And they said that is what we call the future. Teachers are more resilient, that all of us would be digitally resilient when we talk about flexible or digital technology based flexible learning. That's all for my sharing, and I would be happy if you have questions and for our discussion. Anyone who would like to, if there are questions, please let me know. You can drop it on the Dropbox. You can also send a private message to me, and or you can raise your hand, and please unmute your microphone so that you can talk. Anyone who would like to ask? Sige, ako na lang magtatanong. How's your preparation? Like for Dr. Jean Puerto. How's your preparation? What are the preparations that you are currently doing for the next school year? Hi, Ma'am Jean.
Hi, Sir Dave. Good
Yes.
morning, everyone.
Good
I'm very
morning.
happy that I am attending this very important or significant webinar. As of this time, Sir Dave, really, the Cebu Technological University, specifically here at Argao campus, wala pa gid mi ka-prepare, sir, for the limited face-to-face nga ang mga students bitaw mo report here sa among school. Kuan pa siguro, sir, a scale of 1 to 10, siguro I can give 1 point na score. We are
Yeah.
still on the process, sir, of preparing.
Yes, because it's not that easy as I'd mentioned. Many even for for private universities, we are pressured actually on the demands, no, on the demands of the existing guidelines, because many students or many parents also wanted to have the face to face, especially for board type of courses, no, board courses that are required or mandated by law. There are learning outcomes that cannot be done via online and cannot be downgraded because that is stipulated by law, and that is really possible, no, especially in the allied health sciences. But for in the GE, perhaps we might think that there are arguments that if limited face to face, maybe go on with just like what the commission higher education was mentioning, the engineering, the IT can go with into that, no. But what is important is there is a sense of familiarity about the implementation, about the guideline. That is why we are here today, attending a forum, attending a webinar like this, a seminar like this, so that all of us will be guided in what to do. Again, it's not a teacher-led type of activity. It has to be an organization level. Hindi pwedeng si Ma'am Jean lang for her class. It should be decided within the university. Then it has to be articulated in the classroom. Thank you, Dr. Jean.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? So I guess we are at the end tail of our discussion now, or I mean in our seminar. If there are no more questions, let me proceed with the closing part. And I would like to thank everyone for joining us. For those who are still interested to join our open and free seminars online, you can log on to our website. My colleague will post or put it on the chat box on if you are interested to attend our future webinar. Our future webinar and seminars are themed towards knowledge deepening towards a digitally resilient preferred future. And please don't forget also to take the survey for us improve improve our webinar. Take the survey. It's now posted on our chat box, tinyurl/soul train eval 07132A, and then so that we can send to you your certificate of attendance and participation. Please feel free to uh, evaluate, no, and so that we can also improve our future training. For the upcoming trainings, especially for the remaining days, we still have this afternoon, no, we have another free and open to the public seminar, particularly on creating rubrics using online tools. Sorry. 13, what's in the afternoon? Okay, we have the afternoon activity, and then there will be another one on July 15, and so on and so forth. You can just click on the link that is provided or typed on the chat box so that you can follow through. There are actually changes in our schedule. Again, this is the one I'd mentioned to you because of the uncertain times. From time to time, we go into self-isolation, quarantine. The activities may be true for that day, but because again of this pandemic, we have to isolate ourselves and so on and so forth. But thanks God, we are all okay. We are all attending here, learning new methods as we go on, as we open our school year 2021, 2022. So once again, daghang salamat. And if you wish to receive notification of our recordings, feel free to subscribe our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel will be posted also on the chat box by our colleague so that you can also view the previous recordings, no? And you will be updated with the future live sessions that we will be giving. Just an advance notice for some, will be offering a short course. It is to be funded by the Commission on Higher Education, and we hope to open it by August, and it's by application. We will be sending. That is why don't forget to evaluate us so that we can keep track of your email address and we can send to you all our announcement about the scholarship that I'd mentioned to you, an open online course for teachers, which is to be funded by the Commission on Higher Education, to be delivered by Silliman University. So once again, daghang salamat to all of us, and stay safe, everyone.